All right. Someone, please, for the love of God, tell me audio's working. Because y'all know last time we had some problems.
Working for me. I'm just trying to figure out my strategy here for which thing to mute so you don't get feedback.
Well, if you're watching the stream, probably want to mute that.
Alright.
Back.
Hey, buddy. So you do hear me on the stream, though? Okay. Well, guess let me pull up my notes here. Blade, you got the notes in front of you?
Sure do. It translates to 2 beers. And a bag of Doritos.
All right. All right. Everybody, thanks for coming to the channel. For those that do not know, we are the development / community service / wiki editors / whatever you want to call it for the Clumsy's World EverQuest emulator server. Now, EverQuest emulator is quite the topic these days, and we'll get into that. So first, I want to start off by thanking everybody for coming out. This is our second Campfire Chat, and if I'm looking around, I apologize. I have like 25 things going on, but we have done another one of these before where we talked a lot more about the basics of the server and what we're about and kind of like what we want to do and everything else. And I introduced everyone back then too, so I'm gonna do it again here in a minute. But in the chat, I'm gonna put 2 links, and if you are interested in anything about our basics of this server and what it's about, I've linked the website and the previous Campfire Chat where you can listen to us talk for 2 hours about all the stuff that was going on 2 years ago. So going into this one, we're going to focus more on current stuff and future stuff. For those who don't know, I am Malevolent. I am the server admin / owner. I have ran the server since 2008, and its inception being 2006. This is the 3rd iteration of the server, and hopefully the last one because, well, I don't feel like doing this again. I like the server. I want it to stay around a while. Immediately to my left here is, or to your right, is Falgor. He's my lead developer / content guy. He does all our custom tooling and integrations. Pretty swell dude, at least I think so myself. Valgor, if you want to say hi.
Yeah, hey, yeah, like I said, Valgor had been working on playing / working on the server for a handful of years now, having a good time, and yeah, we got a good, not a super massive server like some that are out there, but has a good core group of players and people that keep showing up and joining us, having a good time. So it's been fun to continue to build this thing and mold it into something that people want to keep coming back to, and that I myself enjoy to play. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Valgor. Immediately to his left and your right is Zircon. He is one of our guides / community people. He helps with wiki stuff and, steering lost stragglers and wanderers into the correct places. Zircon, if you'd like to say a little something.
Hey, Zircon, been on the server 5-ish years now. Really enjoy the balance of it, all the nostalgic feel you get with the custom content. Huge fan of questing and updating the wiki. Just really enjoy the people on the server. Keeps me sticking around.
All right. And immediately beneath me is Dagara. He is another one of our guides and content testers / wiki people. He helps a lot in the community. Yeah, if you want to say something. Or not. Fine. Be that way. He might be AFK. And right next to him is Plagued. He is our reigning OG, oldest member ever, and longest playing person besides myself. He helps with community stuff, wiki stuff, testing, you name it. Plagued, if you want to say anything.
Sure. I've been here since 2008. I love the server, the feel, the custom content, the just general atmosphere is wonderful. I've been playing here exclusively since 2008, and I don't want to play anywhere else. It's great. I like to contribute, and I like to reach out to community members who need help when they start. It's a good place. It's a really good place. It's a fun place. It's so easy here. It's really good. Come play.
I second that notion. Come play. All right, let me pull up some notes here. So, like I said, I don't spend too much time talking about old stuff, so I'm going to dive right into kind of like where the server is right now. We just released our first major content patch. For those that don't know, our main custom content on the server is what we refer to as ancient content. And the classic ancients were around at the launch of the server. They were developed in a previous iteration of the server, and we just kind of carried around the idea to this version and expanded on it. So we just released the Kunark Ancients, which the name implies they exist in Kunark zones, and they're meant to be a custom take on classic mobs, and like what can we do that's super interesting and unique. And it's our opportunity to play around and use new mechanics and kind of to see how far we can push the scripting system that exists, and gets interesting sometimes. So beyond that, this patch also introduced our new bounty system, which we had previously beta tested during, I think, the Christmas event, and that worked out pretty well. It's had some ups and downs. We've been fixing some bugs, but it seems pretty stable right now. This basically gives players the ability to earn alternate currencies that they can use to buy AAs, some augments, and some other random items that are used in other things like metallurgy and stuff like that. Additionally, we've reworked and introduced the Epic 1.5s as our Epic 2.0s. These have been toned down a little bit to fit within our timeline, and the quests rewritten to kind of make sense for our era, because we don't really go beyond Velious unless it's for a specific purpose. Like you don't just explore beyond Velious. We've also introduced the class augment upgrades, which there's more to that which hasn't been found yet. Ancient weapon upgrades, which we are still working on. No one has completed yet. Challenge event rework, which it was completely overhauled, rewritten from the ground up. And in that process, we also introduced the hard mode of the event, which, based on initial testing so far, that's a ways off of doing good on that. We've reintroduced the event leaderboard. We had a new version of this we wrote, and turns out the server don't like certain things, like AC. So we've kind of reverted that, and now we just have the event leaderboard, which will reward players with player titles for maintaining the #1 position in an event. And so far, we've only done Putrescent Army normal event. So those of us who have done that, I'll have that title, and you're welcome to come take it from us. We have also introduced the Bazaar 1.0, which is the best bazaar, unless you like sitting in EC Tunnel. More power to you if you do. However, I hate the new bazaar, and you will never see it here. I love the old bazaar. In fact, or fun fact, I got banned once for using my bard to link dead people in the old bazaar, and that is one of the reasons they changed it. You're welcome. We've introduced the guild hall, guild banks, guild translocator, which is custom here. It's not like it works on live. This gives guilds the ability to spend plat to buy portals to places you cannot already teleport to. And obviously it's meant to be kind of a guild sync or a plat sync, but also just convenience for guilds. We have introduced robes for all races. This, I can't take credit for this. This is a community thing, and we have introduced it and love it. Also, classic skeletons, another community thing that we have introduced, and we give players the ability to get to via an alternate currency merchant. I've also made certain texture mods a part of our base install. Don't kill me, Daybreak. And I think they help with some visualizations, fixing transparency issues, fixing animations like XR bows and some other random crap, which to me, that seems like it should be a part of the base game regardless. So, if you hate it, whatever. But I like it, and that's here. Additionally, I've reworked base data and skill caps. The purpose of this was to provide a bigger gap between class roles. In base EQ, like tanks, knights, and like melee DPS are really pretty close on stats, and I kind of wanted to put a little bit of gap between them. And the same thing for hybrids and casters, priests and casters, like they're kind of close on stats. I kind of wanted to just bridge that gap a little bit. And the purpose of this is just, tanks have more hit points than casters and melees and vice versa, that kind of shit. Additionally, with the skill caps, I gave Beast Lords and Bards dual wield natively because I've introduced a lot of AAs and I wanted to be able to use some of those AAs for Bards and Beast Lords, and that was the only way to make them work. So we've introduced the currency exchange. So each event has a currency. The bounty system has a currency, and then we also have a world drop currency that you can use to buy any other currency. And the purpose of this is that if you want to farm for currencies, you can do so, and you can use those to buy any of the other currencies. So if you want to focus on AAs from the Mark of Valor vendor, you can do that. Or if you want to focus on cosmetics, you can do that. Kind of give you a little bit of choice there. Or you can sell them in the auction house, whatever the hell you want to do. You're fine with that too. For those that have been here a little while, they know the history of EverQuest is
enhance.
Appreciate you. It's kind of how our players get access to a larger spell bar, and it basically is just players go around the world collecting books, and when you turn them in, you get a little bit of reward. If you get them all, you get a big reward, which is more spell bar shit. We've expanded that, and no one has finished it yet. Ain't that right, Falgor? They hate me. It's okay. I've been reworking disciplines. So warriors and knights have been completed, and so far testing has been really good. I'm kind of happy where they're at. I do want to make a couple changes just based off testing, but it's minor stuff, just scalability, some other things like that. And I want to continue to work on the discipline revamp by doing melee DPS next, and then hybrids after that. So, and then finally, I've been completely reworking alternate advancements. Much to some people's disdain, I do not like grinding for AAs, and it won't really be a thing here. I'm a big fan of purpose-driven results, purpose-driven quests, purpose-driven events. So to me, if you are just grinding for AAs, you will always find the most efficient way to do that. And as someone who has played hardcore, I know exactly what that is, and I don't want people doing it. Because in order to fix it, I have to punish people who want to play normally, and I don't want to do that either. Because while this server does have some hard shit on it, it is meant to be a more casual version of a hard server. So there's some balance to it that matters. So I've consolidated a ton of AAs, like the stat AAs, like instead of having innate strength and innate dex, it's just all one. Same thing with generation, it's just all one thing. And it's allowed me to open up some other ways to give people AAs, like through events or through bounties, progression. And I will continue to evolve that system and add to it, and as it makes sense. With that said, any of you guys want to touch on any of the current stuff right now?
Yeah, I can jump in on a little bit. So probably, other than the Mal mentioned the this major content patch that was just released, which is definitely the largest that has been released so far. So lots of raid content associated with that in terms of Kunark Ancients, like you mentioned, which is kind of like the next tier big bad raid targets. There's also some kind of intermediary targets in there that aren't quite as tough as the Ancients, but are still kind of meant to be like stepping stone raid targets, which are also tied in with the Epic 2.0s that we have and whatnot. So a bunch of content that honestly we haven't really even fully gotten after yet. So it's all out there waiting to release its loot pixels. So a lot to look forward to there in terms of content that's ready to go. Again, not a single person on the server has gotten their Epic 2.0 yet, so that's kind of all tied in together because there's targets that are required to be killed for those as well. So, and then probably one of the most kind of in-your-face features that has been released as part of that that content patch is the bounty system. So, as you mentioned, we originally kind of tested it out in the Christmas event that we've done over the last year or two, and where you have to go, find a a specific NPC in a random dungeon in a random location within that dungeon and take that NPC out in order to get kind of progress that event. And then we've expanded on that now with the bounty system, where it has 3 different tiers of difficulty, and you can, again, flags an NPC within a random NPC within that zone, and you have to go kill that specific NPC to get the alternate currency from the loot, as well as turning in that bounty quest gets you some additional rewards, alternate currency. And Mal kind of teed it off a little bit, but some of the unique ways that we handle AA distribution on this server as well is, we have in that bounty alternate currency vendor, we have items that you can buy with this bounty alternate currency, which when you buy that item, you can right click it and it'll learn that alternate advancement skill for you. So lots of them in there, dozens of them in there, and you can kind of keep progressing through those AAs just by running bounties at your own pace and purchasing those, and just clicking them. And so that is a whole system that I think we will be expanding on, and not even just in terms of AAs, but there's a lot we can do where you can get items that you either purchase or with alternate currency or find in the world, and you right click it and it gives you a quest, or so having items in the world that you interact with to kind of initiate these this content is kind of a cool thing that we've implemented, and I think are going to expand upon as well as we go through. So bounties are cool, and we also have a raid version of the bounty. Uses the shared task system, so you can, I think we have up to 12 people can be a part of a specific raid bounty. So instead of going out and just having one NPC that you need to kill in a random zone, you have a weekly raid zone that gets selected every week. And again, you get all your, up to 12 of your buddies into a shared task for this raid bounty. You go to that zone, and then there's 3 different tiers of NPCs that are in that zone that you have to kill. All of that culminating in a raid encounter that you have to kill, and that satisfies it. So as opposed to getting like 3 or 5 currency, alternate currency reward for a solo bounty, you get 25. Everybody gets 25 per in that raid bounty. So kind of a cool thing to get through there. So yeah, it's probably kind of couple of the bigger things that have been introduced, and I'll talk through some more here in a little bit, but I'll pass it over to some others if they want to talk through anything.
You guys, we haven't touched on goblins. Are we touching on goblins?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention goblins.
Yeah, so one of my favorite updates these two did were adding loot goblins, which there's a few different varieties: a blacksmith, a gem, a coin. But basically, as you kill anything that yields experience, it has a chance to spawn a goblin that then runs around, and you try to chase him as he drops different forms of loot depending on what type of goblin it is. So that has been a pretty cool addition, along with the updated charm quests that I don't think we've touched on yet either, but server unique charms for each class, and then you upgrade them as you progress, and then the initial ones you can just purchase, and then later on you have to quest to upgrade them. So the new quest line to upgrade your charms, along with the epic and ancient upgrades. Looking forward to completing those. So just a lot of nice new features.
Mute my browser.
Yeah.
Blake sending me talking points.
Yeah, hit those. So you've updated warriors. There's stances. There's defensive. There's balanced, and there's offensive stances for warriors. It's kind of fun. It's in addition to like your typical defensive combat abilities, and they're nice. They're you run on a defensive, and you're like, what am I gonna do? Well, now you have a sort of guarded stance that you can run through when you're out of your defensive stance. And you're going to be updating monks as well as rogues and doing some reworking for the melee classes as a whole.
Correct. Yeah, so I guess I'll touch on that a little bit more. So with the discipline revamp and I guess kind of what I was going for was I wanted disciplines to be something you could use every fight. As it stands now, the disciplines have really long cooldowns, and so you tend to want to save them. And in certain dungeons, that means you get to use your disciplines on like 1 or 2 bosses out of like 6. And I didn't really like that. Plus, you have other like incidental, like situational AAs or disciplines like, you know, fearless and resistant, which one resistant was useless before. Now it actually gives you a scaling amount of resist based on your level. So while we probably don't use it a whole lot, it is more useful now than it was. Fearless now lasts like 5 minutes. I gave each of the tanks stances so that they could choose, you know, kind of like what they were trying to do at that moment. So for warriors, you know, like offensive stance and guarded stance, you know, like they can pick if they want to be more offensively focused, gain, you know, more damage, more crit rate. But contrary, you know, they take more damage and they build more aggro. So I have to think about it. Defensive or guarded stance is kind of like a backup to defensive now, where, you know, like, hey, I can still have some type of defensive mechanism, take reduced damage, get more healing, but deal less damage too. So, you know, like depends on what your role is. And then knights get another stance that's, you know, more focused on, you know, their role as a knight. So paladins, their class specific stance is more focused on like slaying undead and increasing healing and that kind of stuff. And then for paladin or for shadow knights, it's more increases spell damage and life taps and that kind of stuff. You know, so it's the stances are meant to be more focused on what that class is, and it's a more balanced version of guarded and offensive. So most of the time you would probably use in that stance over the other two, unless you're just wanting to go purely melee or purely defensive, which kind of the goal there. And I'm gonna do the same thing for rogues, and at least on the next wave, it's gonna be rogues, monks, and berserkers, as those being your primary melee DPS. And I want to do the same thing for them. They won't get stances per se, because there's not really a reason for melee DPS to be, you know, guarded stance. There may be some stances, but it won't be like that. It'll be different. But I want to be able to give melees, knights, warriors the ability to use their disciplines on a more regular basis. And so part of that has been to revamp endurance costs and make other spells and stuff give you now more endurance to kind of counteract the costs now, because any of these guys can tell you, especially if they play knights, you run out of endurance pretty quick, especially if you're you know, pounding disciplines throughout a fight. So and it takes a little while to get it back. So I kind of want to balance how fast you spend it and how fast you get it back. That way you can use them, but, you know, don't want to burn through all of it right now. You know, like that's still the decision. A little bit, I just want to talk a bit more too, and Val can touch on it if he wants, but just holiday events, you know, like every year, you know, we just finished the Halloween event. Every year we try to add something to the event. Sometimes it could be balancing, sometimes it could be adding a new task or a new enemy or a new quest chain, but we always try to add something. That way the event continues to grow year after year. It's not always just another raid mob or another newbie quest. We always try to add a little bit of something to it. And we got some ideas for the Christmas event. You know, it's about a month out now, and maybe a new raid mob, maybe a new quest or two. We recently introduced large bags, and so you know, for those that have done the Christmas event, know that we have a quest chain that gives you a stocking, which as you go through the chain, the stocking increases in bag slots and weight reduction. So you know, maybe we expand on that. Just give you some ideas. You got anything, Val?
Yeah, so that's we actually had kind of a big chat about it, a couple days ago, working through pretty much everybody in this stream right now, kind of talking through ideas and stuff. So we've already finished some of that new content for the Christmas event specifically. So the stocking one is essentially done and all hooked up and ready to roll. We are and that one's going to be a little bit more interesting this year as well. We are hooking up some stuff to give you tying into the goblin system. So the goblin system, now that we have that, Zircon talked about it a little bit. I love it. I think it's cool. Obviously, kind of harkens back to kind of the Diablo goblin kind of theme, but we kind of took that concept and building on it a bit, and we're going to continue to add in ways when it makes sense different types of goblins, and specifically with holidays as well. So we'll be adding in a holiday goblin that basically will give you will drop a specific kind of holiday currency that already gets used. These stolen presents will drop them in larger quantities that you can use in some other interesting ways for both existing Christmas quests and content and some of the new stuff that we have coming this year as well. So the goblins will be tied into it, which I think will be fun. Even the non-Christmas goblin, without giving too much away, will be tied into that as well. So some fun stuff there. And then one thing I've been kind of doing, definitely sticking with what Mal was saying about just kind of iterating on all of the holiday events a little bit every year. So again, as we get further and further into this, when we flip that switch and turn a holiday event on, really have quite a bit of new content to get after, and stuff that you've probably been looking forward to throughout the years. You're seeing some of these items that people are running around with that you realize are part of this event that you can't get until that triggers. So the kind of design or model that I've been going after now is at least one new kind of raid big target to get after and kill that everybody can kind of come together and take down at least one of those. And then one kind of mid-tier group content type thing to go, quest to go do. Sometimes it's going to be repeatable, sometimes it's going to be a one and done, and then lastly a repeatable, you can do at any level kind of thing. So as an example, for the Halloween event, we had a quest that we added that made you go and pay your respects at various gravestones around the game in various zones. So you go up to that gravesite and you get credit for paying your respects, and you have to go kind of do that across the world in a bunch of different gravesites. And then you come back and you turn it in, you get a pretty nice reward. So, and that was repeatable. But certainly some of the zones that it brought you into, a level 1, level 5, whatever, character wouldn't normally be having a great time in those zones, but you can do it if you go, everywhere that it sends you to, you can get to with just a basic invis. So, and certainly, classes like a rogue or whatever that can sneak, or it's even easier. So point being is there's some out there that are repeatable, that you can get some good value in terms of rewards, and you can do it pretty much any level. So that's kind of like the few different tiers and types of holiday content that I'm trying to push as we go into each iteration of working on these. But I'm really excited with some of the ideas that we came up with the other day to add into this this year's Christmas events. I think it's going to be fun. So looking forward to it.
All right. Well, so unless someone else has anything additional to add to current stuff, I'm going to move on, talk a little bit about what we got planned for the future. We touched on it a little bit already, but so for those that know, we kind of put stuff out in big patches. I gotta stop using air quotes. In big patches. Most fixes and stuff will come out weekly or monthly or just however often we get time. But for the big patches, we actually try to plan them out. And so the next one, we're essentially just calling it post Kunark Ancients, and this will include a lot of different things, probably smaller content waves, patches, whatever you want to call them. And each one is kind of a point on a chart that we're trying to check off. And these are all things we want to get into the game before we move on to the next big content patch, which would be the Velious Ancients. So I've been teasing at hard mode, Plane of Fear and Plane of Hate. I know that's something that people really, really want, and I've talked about it, kind of hinting at it, and it's something I want because I love those two zones. Fear, maybe not so much, but I love Plane of Hate, and there's a lot of nice items in there. I like the way the zone's designed. I don't know that I'm going to use Plane of Hate B. I may, we'll see, but for sure, we're definitely going to take Plane of Hate and add a lot to it, and it's going to be a shit show for sure. And if current Plane of Fear in era is a shit show, then you know hard mode will be, and I look forward to doing that too. So additionally, the next challenge event will be the Abominable Reaver. Anyone that played on a previous iteration of the server knows that this event took place in the City of Mist, and it was, at the time, it was a GM event. I ran it myself, and it basically just started as me creating harder and harder Reavers, Black Reavers. And each one had its own set of rewards, and as you progress through the more difficult ones, the rewards got better, etc. So with the Putrescent Army event being more group focused, I wanted the next one to be raid focused. And so this one will be a raid, oriented event where you take as many people in as you want, or up to whatever the limit we decide to put on it. And it's just going to see how far can you get. And we'll figure out some way to reward people. I've already lined up all the AAs and augments and stuff I want to have as part of this event. So they're already set aside for it. The rest is just going to be us trying to decide what else we want to add to it. And of course, writing the event itself. Addition to that, which I already touched on a little bit, discipline rework. I want to get phase 3 and phase 4 out for sure. Phase 3 being melee DPS, monk, rogue, berserker, and hybrids being ranger, beast, or bards. Beast and bard won't be too crazy because they, by nature of just being hybrids, they can cast and use spells, and they are already more powerful than just a pure melee DPS in a random situation. But I do want them to still have some stuff they can use, like Pure Tone is decent. It's much better later on. Beasts get like bestial savagery or whatever the hell it's called, and it just doesn't seem to do shit. So Rangers, True Shot. I think it'd be cool for True Shot to be a stance. Right now, it's a one and done. It lasts like 5 minutes or something, and while it's up, you're just balls out bow DPS. But when it's down, Rangers don't really compete on DPS, and I want them to. So we'll see where that goes. Melee DPS is going to be a lot easier. I want to add maybe 1 or 2 new disciplines and definitely rework the ones that are currently there. So we'll see where that ends up. Plagued is real big on this one. We want to revamp the poison making system, and I don't necessarily know that we're going to just completely gut it. But when I redid research, I did it because I hated research. I thought it was stupid, and I wanted to give players an ability to create some other types of items, which we ended up using it to create augments. And of course, it also ends up being used for quest combines and other random shit. And so I want poison making to be something similar. You still have your poisons and stuff like that. You have your more powerful ones that the rogue can use, some weaker ones that the rogue can give to other people or sell, whatever. Plus, quest combine stuff like that, which, not alchemy, but poison making's used for, a couple epic quests and that kind of stuff. And I want to continue to let it be something that's used for that. Additionally, we are currently beta testing this with the challenge event, which is the dynamic zone or / expedition system. We want to migrate the current custom instancing system that I made a long time ago, which it works, but it's not really super scalable, and it's there's no GUI. You can't invite people from out of zone, that kind of stuff. Whereas DZs, you can. It's a lot more user friendly. Plus, there's a GUI for it, and I think people will enjoy having that system in place once it's finally there. Same reason the Bazaar exploded in usage when we added it versus our custom Bazaar. Just having a GUI in your face really helps you use something. So I think that'll carry on really well. We've had issues in the past with the leaderboard system. The current leaderboard works fine. It strips you of your buffs. It takes your raw stats, sticks them on the leaderboard. That works fine. There's a built into the server system that we were trying to make use of just because it's a little more efficient. But the server displaying of AC and regeneration and maybe a couple other stats doesn't work. Or doesn't work accurately. And Valgor has put some time into trying to diagnose this and has gotten close, but not 100%. And so we want, hopefully, to get that fixed. We'll see. It may not ever get fixed. I don't know, but we want to. And with that would come the King of the Hill stat titles that we want to put in, where if you got the highest AC, you get a certain title, and if you got the highest strength, you get a certain title, that kind of stuff, and give players something to have fun with on the leaderboard. Like stack a bunch of crap to, so you can have the highest AC, which right now Dagara hates me, but just give players a little something extra to work out, play with. These are kind of on the I would like to have, but not necessarily going to happen soon. And one of those being group bounties. I liked LDONs, and this is where this idea comes from. And I want to introduce LDONs back in a way that makes sense here. And I think a good way to do that would be to have the bounty system expanded to do group bounties. And LDONs are perfect for that. They're basically all blank slates. They're infinitely reusable. We have played around a lot with dynamically generating zones and mobs and things like that. So we're pretty comfortable in it when it would come to maybe dynamically scaling said zone. And I think we could have a lot of fun with this. So that's definitely on one of my to-do lists. I've mentioned this before in the past, before the bounty system existed, and I think I called it just missions, but that's where that was coming from. Raid bounties, I would like to maybe revamp this or maybe touch on a little bit more. I don't think the current iteration of it is as used as we want it to be, and we would like to figure out why and address it. And just one of the ideas I had was just to target an actual raid mob and make it an asshole or more of an asshole. And that would be the raid bounty. And you'd get not only the normal rewards, but an additional reward. And that may not be how we do it, but it's just something I was thinking about. Beyond that, so that's the stuff we want to get out now or soon, next months, year, whatever. Well beyond that would be the Velious Ancients, which would introduce the next major content tier. And with that would come the same type of stuff, more AAs, evolving. I would like to do evolving items. I think that would be a good time to do it. Introduce some new quest lines to evolve some stuff or get items that can be evolved, whatever. More upgrades to ancient weapons, class augments, maybe expand on class augments a little bit. Velious Ancients themselves. There's not as many zones in Velious, which most of the Ancients take place in open world zones. There's not a ton of open world zones in Velious. There's a lot of dungeons. So we'll see where that goes, how many we end up with, but it should still be around the same. And beyond that, maybe more hard modes. I'm not sure what I would want to target next. Off the top of my head, something like Runii, Kazakh Thul, those classic zones that I really, really like Black Burrow. But you just don't really have a lot of use for them. If you're a seasoned player, power leveling an alt or something, like you would not really mess with those zones anymore. But I love those zones, and so I'd like to continue to let them be relevant. Beyond that would be the Sleeper's Tomb content patch. I don't know necessarily yet if I'm going to include Sleeper's Tomb with Velious Ancients and then expand on it, or if I'll let it be its own thing. I think it's going to be its own thing. Sleeper's Tomb's a big zone. and I think it could house a lot of content by itself. And with this content will come other things that's going to happen to the server that we have yet to decide exactly how we want to approach yet. So that may end up being a separate thing because of that. But that in itself would introduce probably epic 3.0s, more class augments, weapons. Appreciate the follow.
Enhance.
Probably finally introduce an ancient armor, which that may tie into the evolving system. I don't know. We'll see. Vision system, which I've mentioned this in the past. There's a lot of really cool zones out there that don't really make sense for what we're trying to do lore wise, like SS Raw, Vextal. Like those zones are cool. There's a lot to do in them, but they just don't really make sense for what we're doing. So the vision system would be a way for players to invest in more content. So this would probably tie into the guild translocator, and you would basically pay a fee. He would send you to these cool zones, and you would have free reign to it for a week or whatever, however long it takes for you to do it. And you get all the loot that's in it, however far you can get. And they would, of course, be tailored to, the content and the tier or difficulty that we want it to be. But there's a lot of great stuff out there, a lot of good content that I don't really want to waste. So I'm going to try to figure out how to introduce it. And I've teased this a little bit in the past. I would like to figure out how to do class specializations. This was a major focus of Clumsy's World 2.0, and it ended up being a much too grand of a concept for me by myself. Now that I have some extra people behind me, it might be something that we could approach again, and I would like to consider it. So, but that's well in the future. We want to get fully established in what we're currently trying to do before we start messing with that. And then once again, more hard modes. Another chance to introduce another couple of zones that I would like to revamp, make difficult, make you relevant again. And we'll see where we end up. You guys want to touch on any of the future plans we got? Maybe some stuff you guys would like to see, or thoughts on some of this stuff?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'll just kind of add to or just emphasize, I guess, is you had mentioned kind of making some via the hard modes and whatnot, making some of the older content relevant again. That's something that gets me excited from like most of us are playing this game because we have history with the game and there's a lot of nostalgia with the game. So playing zones that the in-game zones that you've been in a million times, you can start to get diminishing returns in terms of that nostalgic feel of going into those in-game zones because they're the most relevant. So what could add the most kind of nostalgic value to your gameplay experience than going into some of these older, lower level zones that you probably, to Mal's earlier point, not just EQ gamers, but gamers in general, what's one of the things that they're the best at? Min-maxing and getting to max level as quickly as possible, finding the quickest way to get there and do it, and ultimately skipping a bunch of content along the way. So especially as a server gets more and more mature and established, those methods of getting right to max level super quick and skipping over that content or just become that much more refined. So point being is going back into some of these zones, split pod, except, just a bunch of the kind of famous zones in classic EverQuest and even into some of the early expansions, and making them giving you a reason to go back into them. You're not just going into them just because you want to explore, but you're going into them because you actually have a new reason and a new value proposition in terms of going in and trying to get something out of it. So unfortunately, that's just like human psychology. You're a lot less likely to go in if you're just going in just because. But if you have that carrot on the stick of something that you can get out of the experience other than the nostalgia, you're much more likely to do so. So I'm looking forward to getting all of that in place and going and exploring some of these areas that I haven't, had really any reason to go in decades. So that one I'm excited about.
Sir?
I'll give. If somebody else has something, I'll let you run with it first. But I wanted to hit on ancient weapons a little bit too.
Nah, go for ancient weapons.
So ancient weapons are something I'm not gonna like talk into like the core concept of them too much because I feel like we talked about them to some degree on the previous campfire that we did a while back. But the basic idea of them is you can almost think of it like an heirloom item for your character. It's something that it's a super rare drop initially. And in that era of content, when we were in the classic ancients, those weapons felt powerful. Now less so since new content has come out and new gear. But we've now have a bunch of upgrade paths or a bunch of ways to ways to upgrade these items into more powerful versions of themselves, and that will continue to progress as it goes. So kind of a cool concept of you have this item, it was difficult to get, but you got it, and then instead of it becoming obsolete, and you're just you got to move on to something else, you're kind of continuously building this item up and up and up into increasing levels of power, and every item is different in different ways, but they all, when they are brought up to the current level of kind of the current power level of the content that you're dealing with on the server, they feel really cool and powerful. So that's again kind of a cool thing that I haven't really seen elsewhere in other games. Of kind of you take an item and it's not a throwaway item. You take it with you as you progress into each new kind of increase in power level. You just make that item better and kind of keep it going. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and then I think that leads into some of the thoughts on the evolving weapons and armor that Mal was talking about. On a lot of servers, you get to a point where unless new content is continuously coming out, you're kind of stalling out on what to do. So a lot of the quests you guys have added in the hub, a lot of these additions to just continually improving the items that we've quested and rated for. Again, just keep you coming back, keep you evolving as you go. It's really enjoyable.
Jack, Blake?
Dag's mic working yet?
He's having technical difficulties. The funny thing is it worked perfectly fine before we started. All right, I'm taking a question from the chat here. So Spiro, also known as Jim on the server, asked about me to expand a little bit on, I mentioned stances for melees. I don't necessarily know that I want to do stances for melees, but it's not off the table. Essentially what it would do is like how we have like weapon shield and that kind of shit. I may, instead of just giving you or maybe I just add to it. Fuck, I don't know. Instead of just having a short 12-second get out of jail free card, and hopefully the tank gets aggro back, saves the healer. Maybe we expand it a little bit and give melees some type of defensive mechanism for when they have to be, a savior. I don't want to focus too much on it in the sense that I don't want it to be something that gets used when it's not necessary. And that's a fine line in my opinion. So I've got to be very careful. There are a lot of instances where a character could get something, especially defensively, when they're not a defensive class. And it would seem to make things too easy when I don't want it to be. Balancing has always been a thing that matters very dearly to me. And so I will continue to worry about that. But no, it's not necessarily off the table. It is just very carefully considered. So when I do start looking at melee DPS, which should be soon, I I will consider how best to implement the things that I want to implement, and we'll see where it goes. And of course, like I did with Knights and Warriors, there will be some testing that needs to go in, some fixes, some changes. I don't play a lot of melee DPS classes. Like, I don't have a high level Berserker, Rogue, or Monk. So this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to have to get full feel of it from other people, which isn't how it normally works. I have a max level every other character except those three. So we'll see. But thankfully, this group and a lot of our regular players do play these classes, and I'll get a good feel of it just through normal rating. So we'll see.
One thing that I want to emphasize, or just kind of point at, that I think is one of the things that kind of keeps me here, is the concept of a lot of servers out there. It seems like they're always trying to please everybody. Like they're kind of, their design focus is all over the map, because they're trying to just always do whatever they think people want to see all the time. And you're never going to please everybody, so it just creates this incoherent mess of a design. And one thing that I really like here is we have a pretty solid core group of players that, we're just making the game that we want to play. And when people come join the server and get in on the fun, it's just gravy on top. But at the end of the day, we're, sure, well, not to say that we won't take input and, feedback from people and stuff like that. Of course, we're always interested in that, but we're not just trying to, wave something shiny in front of people to get, like, we don't get paid for people playing on the server. We don't make any money from it. So the only carrot on the stick that we have is to make something that's fun, that we can go have a fun play experience with. So that literally is our one focus. And so it kind of keeps things relaxed, and also kind of coherent, and not jumping all over the place, just trying to catch players and get the highest count possible, and all of the potential side effects that come with that. So
I had a thought I was going to say. I forgot what it was. Just wanted you guys to know that. So yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of, so my philosophy when developing and coming up with content is always what makes the most sense for what I'm trying to accomplish. At the very core of this server is a very, very short statement that Clumsy gave me when he first started the server a long, long time ago. It was, he wanted to create a fun and social environment that is challenging. Fun, social, challenging. You can't have social if everything's soloable. It ain't challenging if it's easy. So at the core of everything I do, I'm trying to create a balance of things that are fun, challenging, which incorporates people to work together, makes it social. And that's what I'm always going to do. Because as I've said in other rants and posts and topics, I am customer number one. This is my server. I want to play a server that I want to play. And I will never do anything that jeopardizes that vision. Now, it doesn't mean I won't take input and advice, and I won't ask for suggestions, which I ask these guys for stuff all the time. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm thinking about this. And I get their feedback, because sometimes something makes sense to my head and it doesn't really make sense to the players. And that's good. That's constructive criticism, and I love it. I don't let them beat around the bush. I don't let them bullshit me, just like I don't do the same to them. I'm very straight and honest with what I tell them. If someone asks for a suggestion and they don't understand why I made that decision, I tell them, like, this, to me, it's this. This is why. This is what it means. This is why I'm doing it. This is the years and years of experience I have doing this shit that led me to this decision. Like, I am not a newbie at this. I've been doing this for a long time. I understand what makes it fun to people like me. And that's the people I'm targeting. I'm not saying you can't enjoy the server if you're not like me. You know, if you like Mythic hardcore raiding and WoW, you'll have some tough shit here, but this probably ain't the server for you. If you like the Hero's Journey style solo everything and feel like an ultimate badass, this ain't the server for you. I'm okay with saying that, you know? Like, at the end of the day, I'm making a server I want to play on. If people want to play with me, hey, that means we're similar mindset. We want the similar things out of a game. And at the core of it, I love EQ. I don't want to make EQ not EQ. If I can solo everything, it's ain't EQ. If I can run a box army and don't need people, that's not social. And so it's always at the core of how I make a decision is what makes sense and does it meet those 3 metrics. So with that said, without trying to go on too much of a rant, because trust me, I can. I want to talk very briefly about the lawsuit and kind of what it's doing to the community and what has happened because of that. So as most of you know, the Hero's Journey made a ton of money, took in a ton of players, basically got the attention and ire of Daybreak. And so if you want to follow that, it's posted publicly. You can go follow it. That's about as far as I'm going to go on that. What it has done, though, for me, people like me, and people in my community, people in the other EMU communities, is it's put a huge target on us. And just doing this campfire is, you know, like maybe poking the bear a little bit, but I left the old campfire up for a reason, because it shows where our heads are in running this and what we're hearing it for, which is the love of the game, the love of EverQuest. And it's just our spin on it. But at the core of it is we still love EverQuest. And we're not in it for the money. We're not in it for fame and popularity. We don't really advertise. Like, I've been mostly a word of mouth server since I started. Occasional post here and there, Reddit, occasional stream. Like, I don't advertise much at all. I welcome people to do it for me. Like, hey, if you love it, tell your friends, post about it. I've just never really been like that. I've had people beg me to add stuff into the game. I've had people tell me they'd pay me for stuff, and I just don't want it. Like, that's not the kind of server I'm trying to run. So by doing those things, they have put a huge target on the community. Other servers like me, other community members who are doing stuff like this, people that have contributed years of their lives to this, are now at jeopardy of losing all of it. And most of us will probably agree that we're not okay with that. And what they've done is hurt all of us. And so I can't speak for Daybreak. I can't even speak for the community. I can only speak for myself and maybe hint at what these guys probably think too. And it's that we want to continue to put forth our best effort, good practice, morality, whatever you want to call it, in that we are doing this for the love of the game. And we won't let those other things jeopardize what we're doing. We're pretty transparent in how we run things. I've even took community feedback on how to reword things to make it even more clear what we're trying to do and what we're not trying to do. And hopefully that has helped alleviate any thoughts about us doing shady shit, which won't happen here. I don't need anyone's money to run this shit. I've been doing it long enough. I don't need anyone's help. So the people that do donate to me do so because they love the server. They don't get anything in return. And I want to make that very clear. And that will continue to be the case. So now, Daybreak's stance on this is very clearly they're protecting their IP and they're attacking someone who's making money off of it. And that's perfectly acceptable for a business to do. No one can blame them for that. If you are blaming them for that, you're here for the wrong reasons. So with that said, the current climate within the community is bad. Like, it is, we've lost a tremendous number of talented developers who have completely left the community now because of this. And it's put us all on damage control. It really has. Thankfully, a good group of people and us got together. We call it the Preservation Project. but it was just trying to capture and save as much information as we could, because until we can't, we want to continue to run this community and continue to make servers and continue to make it easily accessible to other people that want to do the same thing. And that almost got taken away from us very quickly. So, if you guys are watching, any of you other guys out there, thanks for, what you guys have done so far. We've done our bit, you guys have done yours, and we've saved as much info as we could. And community development efforts are starting to pick back up again, but they'll never be 100%. Like this is going to be something that damages us permanently. So, Daybreak themselves are probably now, watching us with a scope, making sure that we're all doing the right things. I've told these guys the same thing. I don't think they're going to start coming after all of us just because we exist. I've been here since 2006. I've seen 3 servers get taken down since I've been online, and 2 of them were the same server. So, I mean, it's not common. It's very rare. And the last one was in 09, besides this one. So it's been a while. Like they've taken a back seat. They've been pretty open with the EMU community, and they've taken ideas from the EMU community. So I know they like us in some capacity. And hopefully it continues to be like that. Hopefully we continue to have this, we won't step on your toes, and by doing that, maybe you'll leave us alone type of thing. But, if we get another server like THJ comes in here and starts being stupid, then that maybe not be the thing no more. So the concerns from the community are simply, what are we allowed to do? What can we get away with? And they've made it pretty clear. If you go out and look at the agreements that Quorum and P99 have with Daybreak, you can pretty much guarantee that we have the same type of understanding. They're very carefully watching what people are doing, especially if those things involve money. So I think as long as we avoid drawing a big target on us monetarily, that will be okay. But just in case they do, I have started keeping all donations separate from my personal account, just so that if for some reason Daybreak ever does come after me and they go, oh, you're making tons of money on this, I can go, nope, it's right there. It's not used for anything except the server, and I'll have that. So, but I've done that to protect myself and the server, and to make it more transparent. That is the goal. It is not ever to make money, and I only want this project to survive. It's been a part of my life for a very long time. I don't want it to go anywhere. So that's where I'm at with it. I'll open up to you guys if you guys want to ask any questions or talk about it. If you want to rant for a minute, it's completely understandable. Like, it's a shitty topic.
Yeah, not a fun thing. Something unfortunately we've been dealing with for a little while now with the rise and fall of THJ. But just in terms of this server, I think we're all pretty well aligned that number one, I think we have a pretty good idea of the things to avoid to, like you said, not draw the ear of or the ire of Daybreak, and I think we're not only have been, but will continue to operate within those lines. But more specifically, we're not gonna make a server that we don't want to play because we want to be overly careful either. Like, we're gonna make the server that we want to play, and we think we can do that with it while meeting the intent of what Daybreak has outlined in terms of the limitations, and we'll keep going as long as we can. And I think based off of the conversations that have been had between Daybreak and members of the community in terms of setting those guardrails, I think we're in good shape, and I think we'll continue to be in good shape. Now that we there is a silver lining in this whole thing. Definitely a more rough environment these days in terms of all the drama, but also we do have a much, I would say it's generally safer, which may be shocked, may not sound right to some people, but we know where the intent is and where the do not cross this line kind of things are now. So in that regard, I think it's also a little bit of a safer environment to operate a private server.
Yeah, anything, Zerk?
Nope. I think you guys covered it all.
Dag and Plague, y'all got anything? They've been awfully quiet today. We got to get Plague some gin. All right, so from here forward, it's kind of open format. Questions from the panels where I'd like to start. If there's anything you guys like to ask me or ask one of the other panel members, do so. Additionally, this will be a good time for the chat. If you guys have any questions, to start putting them in chat. And if the panel member wants to talk about those things, they can. So. Y'all gonna make me start? You guys are terrible. Terrible. Talkative at all. All right. So I'll start. Valgor. You were like herding kittens sometimes. What do you think your biggest weakness is when it comes to development projects?
Biggest weakness, probably just staying focused on specific lines of effort. Obviously, I've got two little ones and a job, so that can draw my attention. But even once I am, once I am working on stuff, there's so much to do with a project like this that it can be hard to stay focused sometimes. So yeah, it's like so many ideas floating out there that just in my own head, and then you start talking with some of these guys, and yeah, I mean the potential out there is pretty much endless. So it's it can be really easy to have the whole "I saw a squirrel" concept, and but overall, I think we have a pretty good team that kind of helps keep us focused. And when I have an idea that turns out was I didn't think about all the different parameters, I get set straight, and other people have ideas, and I think at the end of the day we bring it together in a way that we get some pretty cool concepts, and we don't break the game, right? To Mal's earlier point, we don't want this to not be EverQuest anymore. So I think we've been pretty successful with kind of keeping the game what it should be while still making it something new and fresh. So
Zircon. Valgor briefly mentioned not breaking the game, which leads me to my next question. Zerk, would you like to touch on what your favorite moment has been so far on the server?
Of course. When Valgor built the Spirit of Garzakor quest, which is a very intense quest line that culminates with defeating a raid level spirit dragon. And when we got to that point, we discovered that I think it was for his normal attacks, he was death touching. So he just death touched the entire raid in a matter of 2 seconds.
if I recall correctly, one of those like main pillars of objectives in content was challenging.
Correct.
I mean, I'm here to please.
Yeah, one thing about the server I really do enjoy is that death touch for it, the majority has been removed from a lot of the classic mobs. So content you would normally avoid because you'd be one-shotted and it just wouldn't be fun. That has opened up a lot of exploring and questing you can do. But after years on the server of getting used to not having Death Touch and then just seeing it wipe an entire raid was very amusing.
That was one of the funniest moments ever. And we had a similar event with Bristlebane where, you know, a little typo in the code. He went to quadness for millions at a time.
Yep, that was a good time too.
Yeah, that was which Jim's gonna talk shit, so that there it is in chat already. He's like, hey, Bristlebane just hit me for whatever and one-shotted me or whatever, and I was like, oh no, he's fine. I thought he just got quadded and just got like one-rounded. He showed me the lock and I was like, hold on a second. Turns out just missing a decimal point somewhere.
A little rounding error, no big deal.
No big deal.
It was just Jim. That's fine.
I mean, it was Jim, and then it was the rest of us. But yeah,
yeah.
Which Jim loves us when we talk about A-Bomb, and A-Bomb's like currently one of the least understood fights on the server. And he's part of our Christmas event, which makes him all the much better because it's a short time frame you get to do the Christmas event or Halloween event, and so typically we want to focus on the holiday event while it's live. And so we're basically throwing our faces at this thing every day, and no one knows how to do the fight yet. It's just brute force. That's the only way that we have ever succeeded at it. Which makes it that much more hilarious when I'm just dying laughing in the background.
Right. And I have to give a lot of credit to yourself and Val for coding these and making them and not letting anything slip to the rest of us who enjoy figuring out how the mechanics work, or not figuring out how the mechanics work and watching you guys get really frustrated at us is also kind of fun. But it does it keeps it enjoyable. Other servers I've previously played on where the devs are embedded in the player group, you know, they talk more deeply on what's going on and they help with mechanics and strategies. You both are very hands-off until the people on the server figure it out. And that makes it, again, just very enjoyable, and it makes it fun to learn the fights.
That's been a hard thing because obviously there's many of those quests that exist that I want to do for myself. You know, like I would love to have another spell slot on my cleric. But until the community accomplishes those things, it has not technically been figured out yet, so we have to wait. And there's lots of instances like that. Like, we know everything about every quest that's written, basically. So we could technically walk right up to wherever the placeholders are that we know exactly where they are. But that's not fair. So we always give the community time to figure this shit out, and then let the community be the source of the information, and then we go and do it. Like, oh, okay, now that the community's figured out, we can do it. So and trust me, it's painful sometimes because, man, I would love to finish some of these quests, and gotta wait. Sucks. So like, even some that aren't really that difficult, like things that wouldn't be hard for me to figure out on my own. You know what I mean? Like the augment upgrade quest. Which I still waited, like, even though it really wasn't that crazy. So, but your point, and Val's point to a little lesser degree, brings me back to the past on this server, which so anyone who's played for a while knows we had another guild on the server who talked a lot of shit about me. And I don't know if they ever talked shit about Val or anyone else, but they talked shit about me. They brought my integrity into question, and it drove me nuts. Because anyone that plays with me can vouch, I don't slip at all, ever. If I tell you something, it's because I want you to know it, and I will tell anyone the same thing. Val was the only person on the server that knows majority of what goes on, and he don't even know everything. Like, I even keep stuff hidden from him because I want him to have it as a surprise. And a lot of the stuff he's done, custom fights and stuff, I intentionally keep myself out of it unless he needs me, because I want that thing to be a surprise to me. So when we were first testing some of the ancient fights, you know, like beta testing the fights, like, I was blind in those fights. I had no clue what was going on. The only thing I knew was like if he asked me a question on like how to balance something, or like, does this make sense? That was it. That's the only clue I had. I'd go into those fights and I'd be just as clueless as everybody else, and it was great. I loved it. And that's kind of how we approach a lot of this stuff. Like, we kind of like, here, you do this half, I'll do this half, and that way we both get a little bit of the surprise. And I love it. I wish I could do it more, but you know, there's just two of us. So, but anyway, where I was going with that was, the community used to play with me a lot, like grouping with me, leveling with me. I love to play in groups. I like certain people like to power level and just rush to leveling. I like to play. If I want to take my rogue or whoever into a dungeon and just pull and kill shit like a normal person would, like, I don't really care about power leveling or anything else. And back when the server was really, really popular, and we had, you know, before the guild schismed off, before a lot of other people felt like I was, you know, catering to people or whatever, they would play with me in groups, and I would talk to them just like I do everybody else. I would tell them, hey, this is what I got planned, man. What do you think about this? Oh yeah, I want to work on that too. Like, and they would talk to me. Oh yeah, I'd really like this. I'd really like that. That was great. That's why, you know, back in later versions of the server, I didn't let anyone know who I was. Like, my played characters and my GM side were completely separate entities. I even would join the websites, servers, everything as different people and maintain that I was two separate people. I basically was, you know, multiple personality disorder. And it worked great because when I was playing play characters, everybody was very open with me and honest, and I got to see firsthand how things were done, and, you know, strategies and stuff that I wouldn't normally get to see if I was on the GM characters. And that's good. And it's not like I'm intentionally going out there trying to shit on people, having fun, or being unique in their strategies on fights. If anything, it helps me learn. This is the kind of crazy shit people do. This is what I need to think about when I'm designing content. If I give people the ability to kite a boss, guess what they're going to do? They're going to kite them. They're going to avoid all the shit they can, and they're going to kite them. Or if they can root it, they're going to try to root it. I have to think about this shit. If they can try to line of sight it by pulling the mob across the damn zone to the other side, which I've watched people try to pull a shark on land, try to kill it that way. Like, if people can do it, they'll try it. And you have to think about all that shit when you're designing something. Like, what will people try to do? How will they try to cheese this? What kind of cool ass mechanics can we come up with that can't be cheesed? Or how can we keep people engaged in ways that don't require those things? That's the better question, you know, like, if we're doing, like, so we try to avoid a lot of like movement, because let's be honest, two boxing, while not difficult, if you give people like a 6-second window to dodge something, like you have to move out of it, moving two characters sucks. So we try to avoid stuff like that. Like, it's not to say it won't happen. Like, Zevin is a great example. Zevin has a mechanic where you have to get out of the way or he'll fucking kill you. But you get plenty of time to do it. So it's just one of those things where, like, I would like to have more fights where movement is a concern, but at the same time, I don't want to punish people for two boxing. So it's some give and take. We always got to think about. But on that, it was on that old topic where once the guild schismed off, people started playing separately. They started talking shit about what I was doing, and you heard it right here, folks. People in the room with me, I don't spill shit. I love people not knowing anything. It is counter to what I find enjoyable to tell people shit. So think what you want.
Yeah, and again, I'll echo Mal's point about, as he and I are doing developments, I don't ask. Again, sometimes I'm working on something or he's working on something, and we want to like bounce an idea or help with a problem that we're bashing our heads against, and so we'll kind of reach out to the other person and we'll get feedback and help and whatnot. But outside of that, I think we've done a pretty good job of even keeping that separation between the two of us for that very reason. We want the challenge, and we want the aha moments when we figure out the fight or we figure out the mechanic, or that adds to the fun value. So there's a at least half of because we kind of roughly split up the development work on the Kunark agents. So roughly half of those fights I have never seen the mechanics on. So when we go and finally get up to that point and we're trying to figure these out, it'll be the first time I ever see it. And I want it that way. I don't want to dig into it without experiencing the content as it should be experienced. So yeah, to his point, the incentive is actually the other way of keep things close to your chest so that everybody can experience it themselves, including the other devs.
Makes it that much more fun. Which, in that regard, we've had test sessions because, I mean, we write mechanics that seems like they work until you throw 12 people at it, and then everything goes to shit. And so it behooves us to do some testing beforehand, and we try to do as much as we can. And a lot of times we do public testing sessions. Like, we'll invite people over to the test server to do this stuff, and we have a gear up system built into the game now, which needs some updating now, but we'll do that before the next test session, where we give people AAs and gear and stuff. We bring them over to the test server, and we we say, hey, we want to try this fight. We want to see what the mechanics, if they work like we expect them to. And a lot of times they're down tuned, they're not full strength, so the characters aren't getting the full vibe of what's going on. We just need to know this working. Then we can start to scale it up, and that helps us a lot. So we appreciate when people take time out of their days with their kids, whatever, to come over and help us test, because a lot of times it's on off nights. It's not during normal raid nights, stuff like that. So we do like it when we can get some people to help us out, but we're also pretty comfortable with a lot of the stuff we're doing. And if we don't need that test session, that help, then we will try to avoid it, because we do want as much of this stuff to be new as we can. I don't want to know any more than I need to, and he don't want to know any more than he does, because that is part of the fun of figuring out a fight, is understanding the mechanics and what works, what doesn't work. So I want to keep it that way. And as Dag mentioned, no, A-bomb cannot be pulled out of the cave. They tried.
And yeah, again here, kind of taking a little bit of a step back to state of the server. So our Halloween event did just end. What are we, Sunday now? So a little less than a week ago. That came to an end. So a bunch of quests and things associated with that are no longer out. But I know we talked at the beginning of this stream some of the new stuff that we have going into the Christmas event, but that'll be coming online here in a month or a little less or so. And again, that runs for a healthy amount of time, usually through the new year. So lots of content there, both raid encounters and otherwise. So now's a good time to get ready. Some of the rewards that come out of the Christmas event are right up there at the top of the top tier items. So and the challenge is commensurate with their item power, if you will. So coming out of one event, but we're getting primed and ready to get right back into, I would say, even a bigger seasonal event coming up here shortly. So good time to experience that.
Yeah, and speaking of it, this could be for the chat and the panel. If we were to add another event or holiday season, what do you guys think would make most sense? Like spring, summer, April Fool's event? What do you guys think?
My take is definitely trying to get on the other side of the year. We got a lot going on.
Well, obviously, a gap.
Right.
Christmas in July, open A-bomb up in July.
Well, it'll be its own thing, man. But
Even like Easter and whatnot is a little too close. Like in my eyes, it should be like early summer.
so like June, July.
Yeah.
Technically June's late spring, but yeah.
I don't know if there's any good like actual like big name holidays around that time, but we may have to just kind of make something up our own.
Trying to think of a clever way to say Independence Day that is NORAD approved.
When is St. Patrick's Day?
March. Trying to go later. Like if Easter's in April, you're going the wrong direction. Because there's a huge gap between Christmas and Halloween. So like something in the middle there. There's a little bridge event, you know.
After Christmas is done, we can kind of start collecting ideas and putting some stuff together to get a version 1 of that event primed, and then kick that off. But yeah, something we could call the event something that is kind of in the same vein of like even Daybreak, or they do Frostfell instead of calling it Christmas events, that kind of like have a different name for it that is a little bit more non-specific, I guess.
You know what we should do for Halloween? Just have an NPC that is like Jason from Friday the 13th, and just randomly you're in a zone and just Jason just starts chasing your ass. Kind of like Butcher from Diablo, you know, he just fresh meat just starts chasing your ass across the zone.
That'd be awesome.
I feel like Easter would work, be an easy one. Like a bunch of collect and fetch quests, trade skill shit. But I feel like Easter's just it's just a little too close to Christmas.
That was my thought as well.
I guess it could be a smaller event. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say we couldn't do both. We couldn't, start with something small for Easter. The Killer Bunny, or some stuff, and then maybe kind of be building towards some sort of larger event in the summer.
I'll touch on that. I forgot to mention this. So, deep in the back of my head, eventually there will be a catch-up event, which I actually plan to make it one of the challenge events. It'll just be a different focus. For, say we're middle of Velious Ancients and, we want to get new players caught up or something. Like, the idea behind that event would be something like the Pantheon of the Gods, where you start in like an arena and the game just throws all the progression shit at you. And think of it like a ring event, like OG Vulak Air. I don't know if any of you guys ever did that, but just over the course of that event, you would be killing progression NPCs over and over and over and over and over. And you would, as far as you could get in that event, would be how far you could catch somebody up. And it's not going to be easy because you have to deal with all of it. Like quick succession type fight. So like a pretty decked guild could get through Classic and Kunark pretty easy. But you start chunking Kunark Ancients in there, and Vulak and BB and Avatar, all of a sudden that shit gets ridiculous fast. And so that would be your limit, So okay, well, now we got to actually go kill this shit for real because we can't do it in the event. I think that'd be cool as shit. The downside to that is it's going to have to be in its own zone because of the amount of quests and scripts and stuff that would be involved in it. So, but I think it'd be something that could. I think it'd be something that'd be really cool though, if done right.
I agree. Well, you got any zones in mind?
Yeah. I have to kind of send them to you offline though, because some of them make more sense than others. Like, but they look cool, but maybe don't make as much sense as like how Chambers works for, you know, for the Putrescent Army event, because it's a small place, keeps you confined. That's kind of what I really want, because you don't want players to branch out from the arena, because being in the arena is what makes it so difficult. You know, if you got 4 different bosses up that are all fucking spewing AoEs at you, it can get pretty shitty. And the chaos of it is part of what's going to make it interesting and fun. I remember on granted, I haven't played live since Finney, so take this with a grain of salt, but Finney had, and I guess all the servers have it now, but it's kind of like a catch-up mechanic, but like if 85% of your raid was flagged for something, you could get another 15% in that weren't. So it was kind of like a catch-up mechanic, but you know, they didn't get any extra flags for doing it. They were just allowed to come because, you know, like majority of the raid was flagged. I would like to think of something like that, because I feel like we could make it work through the DZ system. I think I could make it work through the old system too. You know, if 85% of the people are available to get in, then bring in the rest of the people. So yeah, piggyback system. So I think that would work. That'd be pretty cool. But the main thing I would like to do is an actual catch-up system. And I think I have a pretty good idea in place for it. It is how we make it and where we make it. I think that's what's going to really set it off.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And it's only going to be more and more needed. Maybe need is a hard, but wanted as we get more and more, you know, down the line of content progression. Going back and doing progression on everything, it would be somewhat brutal. But without something like that,
like it's for a current geared raid, or you know, like you can blast through classic Kunark, classic ancients in what, 2 or 3 days, probably, maybe 4. So a few weeks at best, or at worst, to catch somebody up. I mean, it's really not that bad. But you know, 3 or 4, or 2, 3, 4 more waves of content though, and that now becomes a month, 2 months, you know, to catch people up. What do you think, Zark? Quiet over there.
Oh, it sounds good. I know, like you said, when we get new players, I don't know, we kind of tend to try to batch them together so that we can get them all caught up at once. Having a catch-up event would be pretty nice.
Dag link the live event schedule. You get some ideas from that too. I would like to do an April Fool's like week. Just have some chaotic shit happen.
everybody that logs in is forced into Plane of Mischief, and you can't leave.
Just for a whole week. Just screwed.
All you got.
I'm level 1. How do I leave Plane of Mischief? You can't. I'm sure that would keep some newbies playing.
All right. The Plane of Mischief newbie yard is forgiving.
Just you have to run up to all the trees and spawn the little what are the little bunnies or whatever the hell it is that spawns out of the trees. They're great at 60. I don't know what level they are.
Probably more than level 1.
Oh, I'm sure. Jim, I see you out there in the audience. You got anything you want to ask?
While he's typing what he's got, I I do want to add too that we've talked about in the context of raid content how when we're developing raid encounters, we've talked about this in the past, and I'm pretty sure we talked about it in the last campfire, how we actively try to incorporate underrepresented classes and to be an active member in the raid, which is still something that we've been working towards as we develop new content. But another thing that I've kind of taken a focus to as I'm looking forward here is trade skills as well. A lot of trade skills out there, some of which are, just not a lot of incentive to use them. So looking at ways to make trade skills across the board relevant. So gonna be, I don't know if all of them will be as much of a, I know Mal already mentioned the like the poison making revamp, but just kind of look for targets of opportunity as we're already developing content to tie in trade skills into the content patches as we go forward, so that you have, and I kind of look at it in different lanes of content, if you will. Like in some instances, you're going to be using trade skills to progress quests and progression and stuff like that, and then also want to look at content where you can kind of like lateral progression where you're incrementally improving your gear or have convenience items or whatnot that you can craft things to just make the use of those trade skills feel worth it. So trade skills are something that I never really got super into kind of organically playing EverQuest on live, but does feel like a kind of a general sphere of the game that I think could use some love. So something I'd like to put some effort into. Usually I have to ask Plagued and Zerk and whatnot on how these trade skills are used on live and all of that, and get the background from some of these guys that have used them more than I have. But yeah, a lot of stuff there that can be improved upon.
So Dag mentioned trophies. So it's not, I haven't publicly really put anything out about it, but sorry, I got a bug crawling across my desk right now. So there's a list that we keep, elsewhere, that we kind of track kind of ideas that we have. And one of those is, obviously I want to expand trade skills a bit, but also wanted to incorporate quests that tie into trade skills specifically for the purpose of giving you trade skill related AAs. And that idea is out there already. I just don't know where it sits on the schedule, because trade skills involve so much shit. And part of why they're so overwhelming to work with is there's no dedicated place to go look at a list and say all of this is relevant in this era. You have no idea. You can kind of look at the drops and get an idea, but are you going to sit there and do that for 50,000 combines? No one's going to do that. So where it makes sense to do so, we will. But I would absolutely love to introduce not only like a Grandmaster quest chain, kind of like what Live has, but then also give players ways to complete objectives, make combines, go out and collect shit, and work their way up a tier of AAs that would benefit, like salvage and your ability to specialize in more than one trade skill, etc. Because normally you can only level one past 300 or 200, and I would like to give players who really want to invest in it the ability to go beyond that. So
and then last thing, kind of major talking point that I'll add in there, and is in addition to the core gameplay. Been working on a bunch of different tools and things to interface with the gameplay experience. Like Mal did a bunch of work on parsing weapons and items to see where all of that data, where where all those items land on the in comparison with each other. And so we put a kind of a parsing viewer together where it pulls in all that parsing data and puts like a bunch of bar graphs together, a bunch of nerdy stuff that but bar graphs, and you can like turn on and off different kind of subsets of data like backstab damage and banes and stuff like that, and you can see very clearly kind of how everything stacks up against each other. So that viewer, that tool, it's a website that put together to be able to view all that in a kind of an intuitive way. Got a raid manager application that you can build a schedule for your guild. You can track attendance and loot distribution, a bunch of other kind of metrics and stuff in there, and signups and attendance and stuff. So have that built. So obviously kind of refine it towards the way that we want to use it, but it's also available to anybody on the server. If you're on the server, you make a guild, you can go register a guild on that app and enroll your people and use it for all of those reasons as well. And certainly open with taking requests if anybody has them for any of those tools. But making a bunch of stuff just to make that is specifically built for this server, interfaces with the server well, and it also, that particular app, you can link it to your log file, and it'll watch your all of the loot as it comes in, and track, again, automatically pull loot assignments into the system and track what loot's going to who and who's participating and how long and all that stuff. So we'll kind of continue to make cool stuff, based off of what needs we identify as we're playing the game. But again, all that stuff's open to anybody that's on the server. So
yeah, that's something I'd like to do in the future. Is I originally had a server specific video made that kind of ran people through the basics of the server, some of the tools and stuff we had, etc. And I pulled that video down after the lawsuit just to be safe. And I would like to make an updated version of that video that outlines a lot of the different tools we have now, like newer stuff. Like majority of the things that we've made, like threat meter, damage meter, master loot council, all these are tools that we made because we wanted them, but we've built them in a way that everybody on the server can use them. Like you don't have to be in our guild to use this stuff. Like it's available to everybody. And a lot of people love the master loot system because it gives you the ability to handle loot without physically looting corpses. It's not quite advanced loot from live, like we don't have that client, so we can't really use that tool, but it's the next best thing for people that like that type of looting or distribution system. And the same thing's going to apply to all the web-based tools we make. We want to make tools that make sense, that meet needs that we have, but then we also allow other people to use them too. And the raid manager system is already made in a way that other guilds can use it. You just go in, register, assign your permissions, officers, whatever, and you can start using it. And you can even integrate it with your Discord server. Like if your guild has their own Discord server, you can integrate it with it. We're building ways into it that you can put in your channel keys and stuff like that, and have it spit out messages to your chats if you want to. Like that's up to you if that's what you want to do with it. And we'd eventually like to replace a lot of the other tools that we currently use. Like just where it makes sense. Like the Alakazam clone is a freaking old ass system. We've had to make tons of changes to it just to get it to work for us. I can only imagine what other servers have done. It's not maintained anymore. I have to pay my web host every month to let me have it because of how old it is. Like they're like, we have to keep old versions of PHP because of you, and they made me pay for it. So like if we can get away from shit like that, great. So where it makes sense, we'll have stuff like that, and it'll all be available to the community as we make it. So, and I say we, Valgor's doing 99% of that, but it is Clumsy World that owns these tools, and Clumsy's World community that would benefit from the tools. So we say we. And I like everything we've got so far, and we're going to continue to innovate and change and add and as much as we can. That's what we're here for. Anything else, chat?
I think we got through the kind of list of things that we wanted to make sure to hit on, and yeah, got some other side stuff included into the conversation. But yeah, I think that wraps up what I have.
All right. Well,
touched on everything I was thinking about.
All right. Well, any closing remarks? Final thoughts? Go Bulldogs, anything? What do you got?
Yeah, I'll just say a lot of servers out there. You go look at the list. There's a lot, but a lot of them, either have taken the concept of changing the game too far to where it doesn't feel like EQ, or it's just not the same experience that you'd get by getting into a server with a smaller, more passionate group of people that are working to make the game interesting while still core design of the game. So making a lot of cool stuff both in the game and outside of the game, and to make the game feel fresh. Still lots of content that we haven't even gotten through, and that'll be the case for a good little while as we continue to kind of progress through what we can. But yeah, good time to get in. Like I said, more seasonal content's going to be coming online here in about a month or so, maybe a little less. And yeah, I hope to see you guys on the server.
All right. Well, I'm gonna close it out, I guess. Once again, thanks everybody for coming out. This will go up on YouTube after this some point, just for people to reference, and I'll put a link to it in the server so people have access to it and can continue to watch it. Thanks guys for coming out. Once again, Valgor, my lead designer, content dev, you name it. Zerk, one of our guides. Wiki Dude, Dag, who hasn't said shit the whole time, and Plagued on the other side over there, another guide. Normally they're more talkative, but technical difficulties. But once again, thanks everybody. We raid tonight. Jim will probably leave early per usual. But if anyone ever wants to come check out the server, we're very welcoming. We're pretty active on Discord. If you're just kind of curious what we're about, check out the 2 links I posted above. One's a video of the Campfire Chat we did 2 years ago, where I talked a whole lot more about the basics of the server, and of course a link to the website where I have our about section, rules, that kind of stuff, how to get started, all that kind of crap. You're welcome to pop into Discord though and ask questions. We don't care. We'll link you to wherever we need to go, or we'll answer the questions directly. It just depends on what we're doing. But once again, appreciate everybody for coming out. Until next time to raid.